All right, we're finally live. Yeah, I almost said Netflix. That wouldn't make any sense. YouTube was being a little slow this evening, but anyway, we're here. We've got Suzie Pollock on the line, so let's get this ball rolling, shall we? Let's do it. All right, folks, and we are back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. For some reason, I always want to say the name of my old podcast. Like it's still kicking around in my head, driving me insane. But this is the Missouri Liberty Report, not the Push for Liberty. That's the old one. This is the new one. Anyway, this evening I am very pleased to be joined by Mrs. Suzie Pollock. Now she was a state rep out of District 123, but I believe she's running for state senate in District 16. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. Miss Pollock, how are you doing this evening?
I am fabulous.
Good. Now, am I right there? You're going for
You
District
are.
16. Okay. I looked it up, but I thought I better verify because sometimes you think contrary to popular belief, not everything you read on the internet is true. Um, So I guess to start off with, why don't you talk about some of the work that you did in the House of Rep? Well, actually, let's start with one. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into some of the work you did in the House, and then get into the campaign for the Senate, and kind of go from there.
Well, I'm a happily married Missourian. Uh, I have worked in the medical field for 26 years. I'm a registered cardiovascular invasive specialist. So I do all the procedures in the cardiac cath lab and surgery with the vascular surgeon or cardiovascular surgeon, cardiothoracic surgeon, or cardiologist. I love that, and I still do that PRN, but um, we need more conservatives in Jefferson City. That was the call on my life uh, in 2018 when I decided to run for the House, and redistricting eliminated my district. So I once again prayed to God about what I should do, and he led me to run for the Senate.
Okay. So as a state rep, I want to start off with this because this peeved a lot of us in the freedom movement off.
Yeah,
You had a bill on basically, I mean, kind of the catchphrase was vaccine freedom.
yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the bill, and then we'll go into what happened to destroy it in essence.
Well, the the bill took several years of a lot of people working on this effort to craft really good legislation. It would have brought the Department of Health and Senior Services back into legislative oversight. Uh, they now have the ability through rulemaking to add any vaccine they want to the childhood vaccine schedule in Missouri. And I think, and many Missourians think, that they should have to go through the legislature. And the reason to go through the legislature is because um, that gives Missourians the right to have their input, to be heard, and to have a say so in what happens instead of a bunch of unelected bureaucrats making all those decisions for what gets injected into our children. And so that was one key component of the legislation. It also expanded um, from religious exemptions to conscientious because we know that a lot of people have done the research, they know their children, and they have decided not to vaccinate. And it's not for religious reasons sometimes, but because of a conscientious belief that it will harm their children. I have parents that they have an older child that was injured early, and then they've had more children. And so they don't want to injure their second and third child for very good reason. And what the state of Missouri does, the hoops they make them jump through, the the health department puts on parents to try to put your children in school is ridiculous. So I wanted one form that the Department of Health and Senior Services could put on a website. Any parent could print it off, use it statewide for anything. That's the other key component to the legislation.
Yeah, now I mean, I know, some of the folks there at the Missouri Freedom Initiative were talking about the bill. We were all really happy with it. I have to say that we thought it was, in general, a good bill because, like you said, you didn't have to jump through fiery hoops. You didn't have somebody giving you the stink eye. And I believe that it was kind of required that the Department of Health put that, paperwork on their site so anybody could, print it out, fill it out, give it to the school. End of story. There was no, well, we need to know exactly why. No, I just don't want my kids to have A, B, or C vaccine. When my kids got older, my daughter, my mother-in-law took her to a doctor's appointment. The doctor's like, does she, do you want her to have the HPV vaccine? My wife called me because I kind of, at the time, I was looking into them more, and I said, no, I don't want her to have the HPV. And so, we opted out of that one.
Right.
But, some parents will, some parents won't. But that's the thing. Individual freedom, what you want to put in your body. You should have the choice what you want to put in your body. I mean,
I'm fully vaccinated. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I am all about freedom to choose what you inject your own children with. Parents' rights.
I mean, it should be. You would think it's common sense, right? I mean, you would think that parents would not want to force other parents to say, well, you have to vaccinate your kids because I vaccinated mine, or
Right.
it goes along a myriad of different topics, but most parents are very protective. They don't want people telling them how to raise their kids and things like that. So to that extent, why would you want somebody telling you what you have to stick into your kid's body? That doesn't make any sense, but that's the world we live in right now. So why don't we go, if you're comfortable with it, why don't we go into what actually happened with your bill? Because with the Missouri Freedom Initiative's live stream that they were doing two times a week during the legislative session, that was one of the three most popular bills in the state, and it just never seemed to see the light of day. Can you kind of break down what happened with that?
It got stuck on the calendar by the majority floor leader.
And didn't they try to kind of amend it a little bit?
Yeah. They, I consider it a personal attack. What Dean Blocker did, he brought up another bill. He gave my bill as an amendment to John Weeman and told him to offer the amendment, and John Weeman did so. And then he had Rudy Veet offer an amendment that completely stripped out the meat of the bill, like 95% of the bill.
Whew.
Right there in front of us. And, I think it was meant to hurt me, but it didn't hurt me. It hurt Missouri parents.
Yeah, that's kind of the conclusion that we came to, but a lot of us came to, but we didn't, we don't know because we're not there every day, and we didn't want to jump to conclusions to say this is absolutely what happened, and then and be wrong. We don't want to pass out faulty information. We don't want to make claims that are unfounded. So that's just the kind of the conclusion. We're
Right.
like, yeah, this was personal between he and her. They just, for whatever reason, he decided to basically murder the bill right there on the floor by doing what he did. Now, I have a question from a listener because there's something that's being discussed right now about changing the rules on the House floor so that two people don't control the whole darn thing. With something like that happened with your bill or things get stuck on the calendar simply because they don't want them on the floor. Is, is,
Exactly.
is there a way to change the rules to make this a little more to kind of even the balance of power here instead of having two people controlling everything that maybe the majority or whoever says, hey, that's the third, let's say that was the second most popular bill in the state. Why in the heck are you literally having it lay there and doing nothing with it when you're passing, some of these junk bills that they're not going to help Missourians at all. They're not going to let them keep more of their
Right.
taxes, have more freedom. Can you think offhand of some rule changes that would help to keep this from happening again?
Yes. So we have 163 state representatives. And, we all go up there thinking that we're going to pass some good legislation and we can really get something done. But then, when I got up there, you know what they told me? Oh, just vote with the speaker. Well, I didn't know the Speaker of the House from anybody else. How can I know what his principles are and that he has the best interest of my voters, my district in mind? So I didn't like being told to vote with the speaker. And that kind of set us off on the wrong foot because I'm not quiet. I stand up for my people and what I know is right. And so we have to have rules that distribute that power among the representatives because we all serve 37,000 people and each district should have equal representation. But with the leadership structure we have, that is not the case.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm glad you put it that way, and I agree with you because we're always told that we're all equal under the law and all, but when you get up there, almost every government house, you kind of see that some people have leverage over other people, and it's got to be a little disheartening to hear, oh, just vote with the speaker. Like that's not why people elected me. They didn't. You don't have constituents
Right.
coming up to you saying, "Hey, if we elect you, we expect you to go along with everything the House Speaker says." Most people don't think like that. Your constituents don't think like that. They're entrusting you to
No.
do what's right.
Right.
My
And I
goodness.
did.
I mean
And,
that
my
vaccine bill
second
alone.
election,
Go
right.
ahead. Sorry.
My second election, I won with 87% of the vote. I think my people were very happy with the way I voted.
Yeah, I'd say that's a resounding yes, and let's do this again type of statement. I mean, again, I think that's something we're going to have to work on is getting a hold of these reps and saying, hey, wouldn't wouldn't all of you like to have this a little more balanced where that's something that we, the people in Missouri, are going to have to pressure and talk to our state reps to say, hey, we've had very popular bills sit here and die because one or two people don't like them. It doesn't matter if they like them or not. If the people want them, then the people should get them. That's just plain and simple. That's the way it should be. So how about
Right.
let's work together, and that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to work together with our reps and say, hey, we need to come up with something, and if they don't like it, well, that's tough because they're not, they're not supreme chancellor of the state of Missouri. They're, you got the House, the
Right.
floor leader and the Speaker of the House, but that doesn't mean, in essence, that you get to make all the rules. That was just a the deck is stacked against a lot of people in the House. So, with that being said, is there any other things that you got accomplished in the House that you're, really, really proud of? I guess you'd say.
Well, with the leadership we had, I was not able to get a single bill across the finish line. But what I was excellent constituent care. I helped a little boy get a pacemaker to help him breathe, a diaphragmatic stimulator. I helped 200 kids across the state of Missouri that have CCHS get more oxygen probes. They were only given one oxygen probe per month. Now they all get 10. Great things like this, life and death different. I was able to stop a lot of bad legislation. A lot of reps.
Uh-oh, you're cutting out. Are you still there, Susie? I think we might have lost her. Uh-oh. I'll call her back and see if she answers again. Hopefully she does.
Hi, this is Susie. Leave me a message and I'll call you back. Thanks.
Okay, well, we'll give it a couple minutes, and hopefully she can call me back, because we were just getting to the meat of things, and then ploop, she cut out. I don't know what area she lives in to be, exactly where she lives. So she might live in an area with a little bad cell reception, or we had a phone fudge up. Who knows? But while we're waiting, I hope she's not talking like she thinks she's still talking to me. But anyway, I want to bring something else up real quick, because this was very tragic. Let me look up the exact. This was Tom Woods, episode 2152, I believe. Tom Woods has had a guest on, by the name of Gret Glyer. He had an app called DonorSee, where you would donate money and they would literally send you videos and photos. So it was very specific. Help this person get hearing aids. Help this person get clothing. Help this person build a house. You would get the actual proof that the money went to what you donated to. Well, Gret was...
Unknown caller.
There we go. Let me make sure I get her back on the right one. Hello, Susie. Are you back?
Yes, sorry about that.
Hey, no problem. You can just continue off where you left off. I mean, we were talking about some of the good things you have done in the state. If you want to continue on from there, that'd be great.
Well, just constituent services and a lot of committee work.
Okay. So let's talk about, how's your Senate campaign going? How do you feel that it's going? I'm sure it's going pretty well if with the resounding win you had in the House, but how is your Senate campaign going?
It's going good. The people are receptive. They want better. It's hard to compete with the money he has from all the lobbyists, but I have a lot of grassroots support, and we're working hard. We're knocking doors and going to events and doing everything we can.
Now, who are you running against?
Justin Brown.
Justin Brown, okay. It's not a name I'm familiar with, but I have seen some posts that he's not the most freedom-minded guy on the face of the earth, so we'll just go with that.
Yep.
I've seen people say that on guns and stuff, he's not so good.
No.
So we'll just leave it at that. So, what? Okay, let's go with this. What would you like to do? Or actually, somebody has a question. Is there anyone in the house that you know of that would push the changes we need to change the rules so that two people don't control everything? Can you think of some reps that we could work with, maybe that would be open to fighting for that and getting that done?
Yes, you just have to reach out to the conservative caucus.
Okay.
Yep, there's a bunch working on that, and but it takes somebody that's not power hungry and thinks that they're going to get in leadership and have control. So that's hard to find, but you just look for the conservatives, and it's building momentum. The idea of changing the rules.
Okay, good. Good. That's good to hear. Okay. So, what would okay, so in this on the Senate side, what are some things that you'd like to see maybe happen as a state senator? What are some things that you would like to accomplish there?
Well, I want vaccine freedom. I want property rights, so that people don't have to worry about squatters. That's another bill I've worked on. Uh, I really want to make, we just had the Roe versus Wade thing overturned, and the states getting to make those decisions for us. And so part of that, it is very hard and very expensive and takes a long time to adopt a child. And I think we have to do better. If we want people to choose adoption and we want parents to adopt, or we want adoptive parents, then it has to be more reasonably priced. I heard a gentleman tell me yesterday it costs $46,000 to adopt his daughter. The average Missourian does not have that kind of money. So that's something I think we can work on in the state, and be true pro-life people. There's so many things I want to work on. I want to work on education. Our education, we have critical race theory being taught in our schools. We have boys that can play in girls' sports. We have to protect our children. I'm all about giving our children a better future than what they have right now. And I'm concerned about the direction we're going.
Okay, so on the whole Roe v. Wade thing, of course, has stirred a firestorm between both sides, and that's something. Last week, I actually mentioned to somebody, and I said, as people who are pro-life, we can't just say, well, Roe v. Wade got overturned and the state had a trigger law, so now we're done. I actually told him. That's just kind of weird. I told him last week, I said, I think we need to get the government out and all these fees and all this bureaucracy and everything out of adoptions, so people who really want to adopt a kid that can't have them on their own, they're not rich people, but that they're going to give a kid a good life and they're going to do everything they can for that kid. We have to give those people a chance at adopting instead of saying, well, you better, take out a second mortgage on your house or you better make a lot of money or you're out of luck. I think that's
right.
Then you force everybody to adopt, an orphanage or whatever. And I know there's people
From
out there
China
like, yeah, it's we gotta open up options here, or I think we come off as hypocritical if we don't do those things.
Exactly. And our foster care system is horrible. It's a terrible injustice to the children that end up in foster care. There are so many areas to work on. So much.
And Warrior Class 3 here, one of the listeners says education should be up to the parents rather than the government. So
Exactly.
So, can you see maybe or willing to work on something where we give the local areas more control over their education than some centralized just kind of system where overseeing everybody where the localities get more choice on maybe curriculums and things like that instead of one centralized power overseeing everything? Is that something you could get behind?
No, 100%. I would be good with eliminating DESE uh, almost completely. Yes.
Okay.
I
And
don't. I don't think that we need the same curriculum in my rural area that St. Louis or Kansas City does, and I think our local people, school boards, should decide that stuff. You know, you can give them guidance, but don't demand, that one size fits all. It doesn't.
and I guess a secondary question to that, what are your thoughts on, because the whole personal property tax thing is a sore subject for me. I hate the personal property tax. I can't stand it. Okay. But
Right.
there are a lot of people. There's several people out there that don't have any kids, but yet pay for the other kids' education. What is could there be some way to say, okay, if your kids go to school, you pay in your district because you're sending your kids to school, but someone who's retired or excuse me, on a fixed income, they're still paying for children's education. Do you see a way of resolving that issue to where somehow we could do it? Say, okay, you have parents in the, you have kids in the school district. You're going to pay your portion because that money goes to school district. You don't have any kids, or you're retired, or you're on a fixed income. You should not have to pay for somebody else's kid's education. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, that's a tough subject. Um, I hate the personal property tax. I'm all for reducing our taxes, but um, we know by the amount of kids that get free lunch, that whole program, that if only parents paid in taxes, there'd not be enough tax revenue to support our schools. So that's a great idea. It's just not feasible. But, um, I think there should be an age limit on paying taxes, especially personal property tax. Um, you know, that's just horrible that you buy a car and you're never stopped paying for it. You got to pay for it every year again and again. And so I hate personal property tax too. There's
Yeah,
different ways we can do it. Um, and that's something I would like to do a lot more research on. But even if you look at all the other states that don't have personal property tax, they have higher other taxes. I mean, we're just a tax and spend society. And I think that we just have to reduce our spending and get our spending under control first. And then we can reduce the tax burden. But if we keep spending like there's uh, an endless supply, then, that's just never going to happen.
yeah, and Missouri being, like what 50% of the revenue comes from the feds. That's something else we got to get resolved because all that federal money coming in, there's strings attached to that money. That's something Missouri
Yes,
Missouri needs to work real hard on, is getting off the government out of the federal government feed trough.
right.
So I was going to ask you about something else. What the heck was it? Oh boy, drawing a blank. I had some subjects I wanted to bring up, but now I was great at work, and then after work got really hectic, and now my synapses aren't firing very well. Um, so okay, I want to ask you this. I ask every guest their opinion, and I don't. I'm not going to beat up on you, but what are your thoughts on the legalization of recreational marijuana? This is a tough subject, but I always ask.
Yeah. Um, you know, I've had a lot of drug addicts in my family. I've seen it negatively impact several people in my life. And people say that marijuana is not a gateway drug. Yes, it is. It. I can't. I can't support recreational marijuana. As much as I'm a freedom lover, uh, I just can't. I've seen it destroy too many people.
You know, this is, and again, I'm not gonna scream and holler at you because you have your own opinion, but this is one point that I like to get across to people because the marijuana thing, the gateway drug thing. I'm going to point the finger at the gateway drug thing, especially the state governments and the federal government because for so long they told people that marijuana was just as dangerous as opioids and other things. So when these people try it, they see that, they're not addicted. They're not, stealing to get money for drugs. They think, well, they told me that this was super dangerous and I don't, I'm not addicted. I don't go into withdrawals if I don't have any. So if they lied to me about this, did they lie about the rest of it? I think some of the blame has to fall on the the DARE program and all that because they just told kids that this stuff was super dangerous. Like I said, as awful as some opioids and had it on the same level. And it's like, listen, it's not. But when you lie to people and they figure out, well, this isn't dangerous, I think a lot of them think, well, I can jump to something else and that won't be dangerous either. Do you see where I'm coming from on that?
Yes, I understand it.
Okay.
And I've been conflicted on the issue, but I just know what I've seen in my own family and friends and other people, and I have a hard time supporting it.
Okay, I appreciate your honesty on that. That's fine. So we talked about Roe v. Wade. We talked about taxes. We've talked about education. Any other topics, Susie, that you'd like to discuss?
No, not that I can think of. Just how important it is for people to get out and vote. We can't complain or expect any different results if we don't get out there and vote. You've got to vet the candidates. You've got to check their voting records and see how they line up with what you want. And don't make it about one issue, but really vet them. Follow the money. See who pays them and how they vote, and see if they're controlled by the lobbyists or that type of thing. Because we need a government that is by the people and for the people. And if you're bought and paid for by the lobbyists, then you're not representing the people. And so, get out and vote, do your homework, and vote for the right candidate.
Yeah, I would add to that the steps that Missouri has been taking and has tried to take, SAPA included, the abortion, the trigger law on abortion, things of that nature. We do have to be very careful who we elect because with a lot of grassroots groups out there trying to get more freedom for the people in the state of Missouri, you have to have some lawmakers there that are willing to work with them and listen and actually do the bidding of the people. Highly important. So if people want to find out more about you, Ms. Pollock, where can they go to find more information on you?
SuzieForSenate.com. That's SUZIE for Senate.com.
Okay, well, Mrs. Pollock, I greatly appreciate your time this season. Yeah, this evening. And I best of luck to you in the. So you gotta. Do you have to worry about? Well, yeah, you got to worry about a primary, don't you?
It's all on the primary. Yes, sir.
Okay.
August 2nd. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll best of luck to you. And if you do win, you're more than welcome to come back on. Even if you don't win and you got something you want to say, give me a holler sometime, and you can come back on. We'll talk about whatever you want to.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Best of luck and take care, Susie.
You too. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That was Suzie Pollock. Now, yeah, we're going to disagree, of course, on the marijuana issue. That's like a given anymore. It's like it's automatic. I'm going to disagree with them on marijuana. But, and I haven't looked at her record. Patrick seems to think very highly of her. I know Justin Brown is no bueno. But, you know, again, I leave it up to you. I leave it up to the voters. I leave it up to the people who, you know, are in her area. But I would say that she's going to be 10 times better than Justin Brown, because apparently, especially on guns and the like, he is not good. Let me go back to what I was talking about before she called back. So Tom Woods had interviewed this guy a few times on his show. He had an app called DonorSee. His name is Gret Glyer. This guy lived it. He was all about helping the poor, helping the less fortunate. He lived in Malawi, which is one of the, if not the most poor country in the world. He's been in Haiti. He's been all over the world, okay? And he created this app where you got to pick where your money went. And when enough people donated, sometimes it was only a couple $100s. And somebody could get a cochlear implant, or somebody was able to see for the first time. And you literally got the proof that that happened. Now, he, a week before his death, which I will get into in a minute, he wrote to Tom Woods and said he was going to try to do his best to fight world hunger. So he was asking for $20 a month. He was trying to get to a certain dollar amount because he said, you know, no matter what, you're never going to end hunger. But, man, we could really nip this in the bud. And we could really do a lot to help a lot of people. Now, what's funny is the Peace Corps, which is, you know, Peace Corps gets a lot of money. They got a lot of donors. And there's a lot of bureaucracy and paychecks going everywhere. They literally told people that work for the Peace Corps, if you donate to DonorSee, you're fired. You're out. Okay? What's that say for the Peace Corps? Anyway, Gret's home is in Fairfax, Virginia. Gret was shot to death in his bed earlier this week. The first murder in Fairfax in 12 to 13 years. I'm going to say that's a little suspicious. But his ideas are carrying on. Okay? So if you'd like to, I think DonorSee is actually taking donations that go to the family. And they're continuing taking donations to see that his work continues on. But of all the people out there that you could hear from that want to actually do good for people, Gret was one of the tops. And I just find it a little creepy that he was shot to death in his bed in his home. And the guy really didn't have any enemies, you know? How can you make an enemy out of a guy who literally goes to the poorest nations in the world and does whatever he can to help just all these people? Sometimes $20 to some of these folks literally saves their lives. That's what Gret did. Day in and day out for years. And unfortunately, he lost his life. Now, it's hard to say what details are going to come out of this, but again, I find it a little strange that somebody that compassionate and living in an area that hasn't had a murder in 12, 13 years is shot to death in his bed in his own home. It's a little fishy. It's a little strange. So, again, DonorSee, it's DonorSee.com. That's DonorSee.com. Or you can get the DonorSee app. And, again, you filter out what you want to look for. You know, find something that's close to your heart. Donate some money. Enough people donate a few $100s, whatever it takes, and then bam, that person gets what they're in need of. And you actually see video and photo results of what you donated to, so you know that your money went where it was going to go. Now, Gret did take a small percentage off the top for a paycheck, but everything else went, and a very small percentage. He wasn't a rich man by any means, but the work he did changed a lot of lives. And I for one would like to see Gret's work go on, because God knows we need a lot more people like this in this world that we live in right now, especially with the dictatorships and the god-awful governments that we have in this world who care nothing about their people and will let them starve to death rather than help them because they get to keep more for themselves. But so I need to look let me look this up real quick, because I could have swore that I saw, let me see here, boys and girls. So it looks like Parson is calling for a special legislative session to lower some largest tax cut in the history of the state. So lower top tax rate, higher personal deductions, eliminating tax brackets, eliminating tax on first $16,000 of earned income for single and $32,000 for married couples. So it looks like Parson is going to try to call a special session in order to lower the taxes for people in the state of Missouri. Do I have a problem with that? No, of course I don't, because lower taxes or paying less taxes is a good thing. It's just funny because DeSantis went through and did this and ended taxes on any essential goods and some other things. And now Parsons is jumping on board. Again, folks, it's great that it's happening, but, it's just like Roe v. Wade and all this other stuff. All the showboats are coming out now because it's election time, and they have to look good for the party. Again, it's great to get tax cuts. The problem is, my question is, would this have happened in a year where there were no primaries, where there were no elections? Would this have happened? That's my question. I'm not so sure. That's what's disappointing about government. That's what's disappointing, especially when it comes to the feds, but even the states. A lot of times they don't do things until it's election time. And then we've got to get people whipped up to vote for us again. So they put on a show. Now, when you're looking at these folks, you have to, again, look at their voting records, like Susie said, and things of that nature. But you got it, man. This is what's awful about the situation we're in. We are in a financial crisis, and guess what? Just guess what these morons that created this situation are doing. Right? They're not letting a good crisis go to waste. So they're going to use it for their political advantage. The question is, in 10 to 20 years, when we finally climb out of this recession hole that they put us in, what are they going to do after that? Are they going to do what they can to try to make sure that doesn't happen again? Or are we going to go back to the same old, and then wait for another crisis to use for political advantage? That's the question we've got to ask. And Ganai says, sounds good if this is actually what they discuss and accomplish. Don't try around the gun control thing. Yeah, we don't want to see that in the special session. We don't need red flag laws. We don't need any of that crap. You want to cut some taxes? I say go for it. But, the Roe v. Wade thing, man, still blowing up. Biden's talking about, well, screw what the Supreme Court said. Let's codify the law. I had somebody contact me last night. What do you think? I said, he's doing it for political posturing. It's it's a, you know, it's an election year. And not to say that if a bunch of Republicans get in there, it's going to get any better, but they know their party is probably going to lose a lot of seats. And they're not going to have control anymore. That's what they're worried about, the control. Okay. So it's an election year, and Biden's going to get out there, and he's going to do his political posturing and his virtue signaling and all that stuff. But it doesn't mean that he's right. Now, also the other good thing, the Supreme Court ruled against the EPA and said you can't pass these new regulations on existing power plants. I've got the Weather Channel app on my phone. I have got to dump that and go to WeatherBug because that went through and I hadn't even got a chance to actually see it yet. I'm standing at my machine and my phone lights up, so I just happen to glance over it and see, and it's like, now that the Supreme Court ruling, let's see how much more greenhouse gases are going to be pumped in the atmosphere. I'm like, all I want from you is my weather. I want you to tell me if it's going to be hot as Hades, raining, thunderstorms, tornadoes. I don't want to see climate change crap on my phone. Tell me what the weather is. It says the Weather Channel app, not the climate change app. They have been, it just sent me into like a rage, a small rage, not like where I was like pounding my fist, but I was like, really, you're already starting, and it just went down, and you're already starting. Warrior Class 3 says, we are very near the point where we decide that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. That's very true. I saw an article where they said 25% of the people said they, are ready to take up arms against the government. Now, the media, they're going to portray that as there's a whole bunch of kooks out there with guns. And we need to do something. We can't let these people who hate the government have guns. And it's like, and that's the problem. The numbers may be right. They may be fudged. They're going to point to that in a bad light. And say that, that we got to get the guns out of the people's hands. Don't be surprised to see more false flags because of this also. And then point to that group of people that said they would, it may be necessary to take up arms against the government. Those people will be in the crosshairs. They will make examples of people. Don't have any doubts on that. They will absolutely use those people as cannon fodder. And some of them may not even be those people, but they're easy targets for government. So as much as that may be correct, and as much, here's the worst thing. The government is pushing people to this. These people aren't openly seeking it. The major majority of these people are not wanting violence, but they feel as the government has overstepped its bounds massively, which it has, and they're like, we're done. But the government is going to use that to its advantage. They're going to say, look at these kooks. They want to murder us, or whatever, whatever words they're going to. They're violent white supremacists who probably celebrated January 6th and all these other things. They're going to be targets of the government. They're going to try to make example out of some of these people. So even though a lot of us here understand that our federal government, and in some instances our state government, they're about as useless as, what's on a bull, but we have to be careful how we tread. Because a lot of people out there it wouldn't bother them at all to see some people who really love freedom to be dragged off to jail because it just makes them uncomfortable. Why would anybody want to be that free? What is wrong with these people? Why do they want to be so free? I don't know, because the government sucks, and as Trish says, everything government touches turns to crap? Maybe. Maybe that's why people are turning against the federal government. Sometimes they're state governments. When you have an FBI that seems to be specializing in entrapping people, like with the Gretchen Nitwitmer up in Michigan, that whole thing, that was entrapment. Plain and simple entrapment. Those guys probably couldn't have found their way out of a paper bag with a flashlight and a map. But they're masterminds in a kidnapping plot. It was entrapment. How are we to trust the federal government when it seems like they'd rather do things like that than actually what they're supposed to do in protecting the people. Now, I'm sure there's some actually good FBI agents. The ones at the top are the problem. And there's some scattered throughout, but the ones at the top are the problem because they become a political organization. Again, this is why it's so necessary, so important that we get our state in order. And Warrior Class 3 says, nature and nature's creator punishes stupid behavior. It's not up to government to make every choice for us, nor be a safety net for stupid choices. Right. Again, I'm gonna go back to what I said. Now, I know this has to do more with, that we live in a litigious society. But I was spraying the cafeteria of a school, and I was in the back where they store the food, and there was a deli slicer on a table, right? And above the deli slicer, there was a placard on the wall, right? It was showing the blade. I literally, like 6 different places. Do not touch the blade. Blade is sharp. Do not place finger. How many, it's like, government probably decided how many times you had to put a warning, the same similar warning on a placard for a deli slicer on a wall. Why? Government is better at regulating placards than it is getting out of your way. Government is better at telling you how much water your dishwasher can use, or how many gallons per flush on your toilet, or what type of light bulbs you can put in your house. Okay? A government that big is useless. It also drags you down into the pit of Hades with it if you're not careful, if you can't break free. It's awful. It's terrible. Again, why it's so vitally important that we get our state in order. And we have to find candidates who, and again, I seem to be able to kind of agree with everyone. Robert's the only one. Well, Robert and Dustin. Robert and Dustin are the only two so far that are with me on the recreation or the legalization of recreational marijuana. This is, listen, I almost blow a fuse every time I talk about this when these people go, I just can't. I want people to be free, but what? We don't want government to make our choices for us, right? That's what a lot of people out there, people running for office or not, they don't want government making the decisions for them. But they also don't want you smoking the devil's lettuce. That's government making choices for you. And if it's not making a choice for you, it's making a choice for somebody else. So people who don't partake and have never partaken of the devil's lettuce, the marijuana, oh, man, they have no problem with the government telling you can't smoke the reefer unless you have a medical card. You can't do that in your own home when you're not harming anybody. That's not freedom, folks. I'm sorry, but it's not. I want to go 100% on the freedom train. I do not want the conductor going, oh, we're almost to freedom, and then back the throttle off about 20% and be like, well, we were almost to total freedom, but that was a little uncomfortable. No. Freedom living in a free society is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for some people to be like, I can't believe they're living that way. It's none of your freaking business. Some people just have to pay attention to what others are doing around them and then try to go to their buddies in government to alter that behavior. Not freedom. So, with the 4th of July, with Independence Day coming up, I think all the people who, again, tried to keep people locked in their homes for COVID, want to create red flag laws for guns and all these things, they should not be allowed to they shouldn't be allowed to go out and celebrate the 4th of July because apparently they don't know what freedom is. No idea. All right, for those of you in KEYK land, thanks for joining me again for this edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. You can find me on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube. Just look up Missouri Liberty Report. You can also reach me at mlreport@protonmail.com. That's mlreport@protonmail.com. And we'll see you all next week. And don't forget, July 11th at 8:10 p.m. or 8:10 a.m., I'll be on with Ken Burns on his morning show. And we'll talk about the Missouri Liberty Report and the goings-on here in Missouri. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Can I make a confession to you guys? Because, listen, you've all, everybody in here has listened to me. You guys are loyal. You come back every week. You know I'm not a big Trump supporter, and you know I'm not a Biden supporter either. But can I confess to something? I did something today because sometimes unthinking people make me insane. I have two guys that I work with that are just ardent Biden supporters. And they just still talk trash about Trump about every day. I don't know why he's not in office anymore, but these guys are just, that dang Trump, blah, 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 and just blowhards. Now, they don't say it to me because I would make fun of them and say, well, anybody that worships either Republicans or Democrats, if that's the way they choose to live, I think they're both stupid. They don't say anything to me. But I have to make a confession. I went, the guy who works second shift, I made 2 signs. Again, I'm not a Trump supporter, not a big Trump fan, but I did it anyway because I know that there's going to be a small mushroom cloud come off the top of his head. So I put on his machine Biden's accomplishments, and I put number 1, inflation. Number 2, more inflation. Number 3, falling off his bike. And then below it, I made another sign. It said, Trump's greatest accomplishment. I put, living in your head every day rent-free. He's going to lose he's going to get so butthurt over that. And I can't wait for him to walk in the building Tuesday because I'm going to stand off to the side, watch him read that, and lose his collective mind. I told my mom the other day, I said, I'm really having a problem tolerating people who don't think, that regurgitate what they hear on the news or everything that a politician says. That's it. That's it. I'm having a really hard time listening. Now, most of those people don't talk to me. I don't know if they know that if they say something to me that I'm going to undress them in front of everybody and just say, do you know how ridiculous you sound right now because clearly you're not thinking? I don't know. And I don't do it out of joy, but after a while I just get irritated with the whole thing. And sometimes you need to take people to task. So maybe 1 out of 40 of them will snap out of it, or 1 out of 100 will snap out of it and go, God, you're right, I am kind of dumb. Yeah. Start thinking. Stop listening to your TV and your politicians. Start reading. Start doing your research. And if you still like the guy, okay, but at least you put in the effort and the time. Can you stop being so stupid for once? But yeah, I did that. It's probably immature and childish of me. But listen, folks, I can't help it. But Now, I stated Republicans and I stated Democrats. But let me tell you something. During COVID, there was a lot of libertarians out there who were also very quiet. And I had a beef with them too. Okay? They did not slide. I did not give them a pass either. Now, the Mises Caucus has taken over. I'm going to assume we're going to see major improvements. But those people that were in charge before in a lot of these states and at the national level, I gave them a lot of grief as well. If you're going to either be silent about the problem or be part of the problem, I'm going to give you grief. I do not have the time nor the patience to deal with you. And I do not have the time or the patience to give you a pass because, oh, well, they're right most of the time. No. This is one of the most devastating things that's happened to our country ever. And just crickets. I'm supposed to give you a pass because you have an L behind your name instead of an R or a D. Hell no. Hell no. I'm not giving you a pass on squat. You can take that pass, and then it'll be intercepted, and then a different team will run away with the football. That's what the Mises Caucus did. Now, again, we've yet to see what's going to happen. But I believe these people are way more serious about furthering the cause of freedom and liberty than the jackwagons that were in there before. So I know all of us probably know people like this in their lives that are just beholden to some political party. You could put Goofy and Mickey Mouse on the ticket for the presidential race, and they'll vote for Mickey Mouse and Goofy, or Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, because they're a Democrat or they're a Republican. That's still the problem in this state. Rick Combs and some of these other guys that have run, true freedom lovers, but because they were scared that the Democrat might win, they had to go Republican. They didn't have to. It's just whatever made them feel comfortable. So how free do they really want to be? Right, Voodoo Queen says, find solutions and fix it instead of complaining. That is why I'm kind of happy that I found the Missouri Freedom Initiative, because they're giving me another channel. They're giving me, and they're helping me be more productive. So Ganai and Warrior Class 3 and Voodoo Queen and when Gary Ride and some of these others are in, they help me be better. They educate me. They're helping me educate you. And they're leading by example. They're getting involved. And so instead of just complaining all the time, you have to make the phone calls. You have to write the emails. You drive to Jeff City and visit them face to face. These are the things that you have to do. Is it like, oh, I had a blast? I did have fun last time because I got to meet Grant. I got to meet Gary Ride. I got to meet Warrior Class 3. I got to meet Ganai. Casey Pemberton was there. Patrick, Casey Rich, all those guys were there. I got to hang out with them, meet them, get a chance to talk to them. So I personally did have fun. And I did learn a lot. And I still got a lot of learning to do. Because now I got middle-aged brain and sometimes I get cross-eyed like, and, I don't retain information as good as I used to. That's for dang sure. But I'm learning how to be more effective. And, Patrick and the like are pointing me to different people to interview. They're helping me a lot. And I want to help them as much as I can. And do my part. And I want to see a lot more people go to, check out the Missouri Freedom Initiative. Get involved. It's sometimes, folks, it's phone calls. Get you and some of your family members on an important bill to start making phone calls to your representative, to your senator. Sometimes that's all it takes. Inundating their offices with phone calls. They know you're paying attention. They know you know what's going on. It makes them harder to go, I had no idea, and play dumb on you when you call their bluff. When you call them out and say, hey, what are you going to do about this? You going to vote yes? That would be great if you did, because then maybe you'll get reelected. The power is still yours for right now. But if you sit by and do nothing and expect everybody else to do the work, things don't get done very quickly sometimes. And then what are those people going to do? They're going to sit and complain more because it's not done yet. It's like, hey, jackass, why don't you help? Why don't you do something? You can do a podcast like I do. I'm not a brainiac. I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not some super intelligent guy. But I have a voice, and I love freedom, so I do this. And then I meet cool people, and I get to build friendships with like Sam and Trish Britton and Patrick. And I get put on radio stations like KEYK, and they're helping me spread the word. You build a community, you build a family with these people, and you help each other out. It's highly important. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this week. I greatly appreciate you all tuning in or downloading or watching the live stream or however. And again, this week I'm going to end with another tunage. This one comes from Breaking Benjamin. This song is called Down. And I know that he's not talking about freedom in the song, but there's some words that I love in this song. It says, fight, we'll fight, and bury our lies. We'll break these chains and wash it away. And that's what we need to do. We need to break the chains of tyranny and wash it away. So, without further ado, again, thanks to all who join the live stream, who download, who listen on KEYK, who listen on, Missouri Liberty Radio, Govern America, all of you. Greatly appreciate you. Next week, I'm going to have on Brandon Hutchinson, who is running for U.S. Congress. He's a truck driver, average guy. I'm going to give him a chance to come on, and you can listen to him, and you can make up your mind just like every week. I have all the rest of the slots this month are slotted now. I have Sherry Reich coming on with me on the 22nd, and I am having problems remembering this guy's name. I have a Libertarian candidate coming on with me in 2 weeks, and his name, oh boy, John, you're losing it, you're losing it, dun, 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 you're losing it. Okay, Brandon Wilkinson will be on with me next week. And then, really, where did you go? Why am I having such a problem? Why am I so retarded? Andy Maidment, he is running for Congress, and he's out of the Libertarian Party. He will be on with me. So today's the 1st. Brandon will be, okay, if I can get this right. Brandon's going to be with me on the 8th. Sherry Tolson's going to be with me on the 22nd. Andy Maidment's going to be with me on the 15th. So I got all those interviews, and I'm going to try to find one more candidate to end out the month before the primaries hit, and we'll go from there. Okay, so be looking for those in the coming weeks. Again, this song is called Down. This song hits me right in the feels. Okay, some songs, when I listen to them, make me not like weepy cry, but it's an emotional song for me, and it's just the lyrics and the cadence of the song. I really love it. I hope you like it too. Again, Breaking Benjamin, Down. And that's not how that somehow I paused it a long time ago, and then it potted right back up from the beginning. So I look like an idiot again. Let's try that from the top. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining me this week. Appreciate all your comments and questions. As usual, y'all are a delight to be around. You really are, because if y'all weren't in here, I'd be like, ugh, I suck again. Nobody wants to watch my ugly butt. But y'all join in. Appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you all have a great 4th of July weekend, because I know you all love freedom. I know you love it like a mofo. So I know you all are going to go out there and celebrate it because you actually don't like the government trying to tell you what to do. And that's what we're all about here, trying to get the government to tell us what not to do. So again, have a great weekend, everybody. Be safe. Have a great time. Enjoy your family and your friends. We'll be back next week for another edition. God bless you all, and take care.